Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's Lunch and Learn. Before we begin, I just wanted to make a few announcements. If you need closed captioning, you can turn it on by clicking the closed captioning button at the bottom right of the Facebook video player. And also, if you're looking for more online events or events in general, and for the next Lunch and Learn, you can always go to our website, librarypoint.org, and click on the little calendar events icon. Okay, and now for today's presentation on Nutrition Facts Label, April, I will hand it over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, and so excited to be here to teach you all about understanding a nutrition label. Because shockingly, there's a lot of information and a lot of misinformation out there about using a nutrition label. So I'm excited to share some tips and tricks to be able to navigate these amazing tools when you're choosing healthier foods or making a choice. So also, I'm April Payne, and I'm the Family and Consumer Science Extension Agent that teaches nutrition, food safety, and physical activity programs in the community as a partnership from Virginia Tech and Virginia State Universities through Virginia Cooperative Extension. So glad to be here. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, April.
Yeah. All right. So this is the original label, and this is the new label, as you can see. And there are little nuances that are a little different. As you can see, the old label is kind of blah. And the new label, there's more pronounced fonts. You see calories are larger, the serving size is larger. So it's a little more user-friendly. So in May of 2016, of course, the nutrition label was updated for the first time since 1994. Isn't that crazy? That's years of not being updated. And then in 2018, you might have noticed that manufacturers were required to adopt that new label. But the big thing is the serving sizes now reflect the average American diet. And so, for example, here, ice cream, 2/3 of a cup per serving versus it used to be a half a cup. And then calories are in large print. That's a new one. The labels no longer have percent of fat from calories due to the types of fat we consume. So there's unsaturated fats, which are actually pretty good for us, and then in moderation, of course. And then there are saturated fats that are just absolutely not good for us at all. And then there are trans fats, which are really not good for us. So this kind of it's more important to look at the calories versus the total, the percent of fat from those calories in there. And then actually it's looking at the percent of fat is what we're looking at there, not that other one there from the percent fat of calories. And then we have added sugar. This is a big change. So you're going to notice if you look at total sugar and then there's added sugar. So this is these are added sugars such as table sugars or sucrose or fructose or something like that. Added sugars during processing. So that's what that added sugar is. So you have natural sugars, which is fructose. It could be lactose, but then they might even add more sugar into that. So the sucrose, the sucralose, things like that, they might add during packaging. So that's the added sugar on top of the total sugar. But hey, at the end of the day, don't forget, total sugar is total sugar, whether it's natural or added. So don't forget that part. All right. So key things here with your nutrition label that we're going to cover are how many calories or serving size are you actually having? So how much are you actually eating? And is that number low or high? And these are things to ask yourself. What nutrients should I limit or get enough of and why? What is a percent daily value? How does a percent daily value help you make a healthier food choice? So first things first, you want to start with the serving size. Look at serving size first. This is where if I'm, the label is telling me a story. It's telling me about what's in this food. If it has 2 or more ingredients, it's going to have a nutrition label. So that's why you don't see a nutrition label on fruit or vegetables. It's because it's 1 ingredient. But if it has 2 or more ingredients in there, it will have a nutrition label. And that is the first place you start, is the serving size of that particular item. It's not how much is recommended that you eat. So it could be that you want to eat less of that item or more of that item to get certain nutrients. But consider the amount that you are actually eating from that item. So your portion is different from the serving size that's maybe for that label. So your portion could be bigger or smaller, and you would adjust all the numbers based on the portion that you're having. So the serving size is what's suggested, and those are the numbers that are on the nutrition label. But the portion that you have could be greater or smaller, and you'd adjust the numbers for that. Right, so that percent daily value, this is like a best friend. This is a shortcut to being able to compare items especially, or to hone in on certain things that you want to limit or get enough of. So it's just a quick reference for foods that might be high or low in a certain nutrient. And this section is based on 100% daily value for each nutrient. And a quick reference, and I would love for you to remember this, 5% is low, 20% is high. Again, 5% is low, 20% is high. This is going to be a really good quick reference, especially when I'm comparing items or if I'm looking at specific nutrients like sodium or fat content or maybe saturated fat. Especially the saturated fat, I can look at this and say, wow, 20%, 23%. So 20% is high. This item is high in saturated fat, especially sodium. Look at that sodium. So remember, 20% is high. 37%. That means this is a high sodium food. I'm going to guess this isn't the healthiest of food right here. But another key nutrient here is calcium, and that says 25%. So that means it's high in calcium. But it would be perhaps, low in sugar because it's 0%, because 5% is low. So calories are a measure of how much energy you get from a serving of food. So that's the energy provided from the food to your body to burn. And of course, don't forget, not all calories are equal. So a calorie from an Oreo cookie versus an apple, which one is healthier? But sometimes we got to treat ourselves, right? But just know that calories are certainly not equal. Certain foods provide more nutrients for the amount of energy that they provide our body. So try to balance the number of calories you eat and drink with the number of calories your body uses. So that scale of balance. So if you, of course, want to lose weight, you would try to eat fewer calories, but then you really got to focus on the nutrients that you're putting in your body. But 2,000 calories, which are all nutrition labels are based on, is just a general guide for nutrition advice. So you may need more or less calories based on your age, sex, height, weight, or physical activity level. And the best place for you to start on this journey of learning more is myplate.gov. It is a fantastic resource where you can plug in all your demographic, your age, sex, height, weight, and physical activity level, and it will produce how many calories you should ideally be eating, and it will give you the suggesting serving sizes for each one of the grains and vegetables and fruits, and then it gives you examples of those serving sizes too. So it's a fantastic resource. And this is where we want to get enough of and maybe limit some of these nutrients. So get enough of dietary fiber. This is a fantastic place to focus because if you focus on dietary fiber, you're not going to have a whole lot of room for anything else. So we're supposed to get an average of like 25 grams of dietary fiber a day. That's hard to get to. So you really have to focus in on what you're eating. And that a lot of times doesn't give much wiggle room for anything else. Vitamin D is another one. A lot of us are vitamin D efficient. And if so I don't get enough vitamin D, I guess, even though I'm in the sun quite a bit, but um, a lot of times our body just doesn't process it quite right. So you may have to supplement that, and blood work is one of the best ways to figure out if you are vitamin D deficient there. So that's a good one. Calcium is another one. Iron is another one that we a lot of times may not get enough of, and potassium. And potassium, interestingly enough, can be very sneaky. It's actually, you get more potassium in a potato skin than you do a banana. So, there's a lot of resources, even myplate.gov, where you can look up where the sources of these particular nutrients are coming from. But usually you definitely want to get enough of these particular nutrients. And generally, we just don't get the recommended amount. That's for sure. We want to limit these nutrients here, that saturated fats. And then, like I was saying, the unsaturated fats, mono and poly unsaturated fats, are actually good for us in moderation. But keep in mind, those saturated fats are the ones that can be dangerous, and they turn into cholesterol. And cholesterol is another one that only comes from animal sources. So keep that in mind. Cholesterol only comes from animal sources. So it wouldn't come from your green beans. But if you put butter on those green beans, that's where it's coming from. And then we have sodium. You might want to watch how much sodium you're taking in. And of course, we can all be careful of how much sugar that we are taking in. The average American gets 100 grams of sugar a day. I'm guilty. And the only way I know this is because I track my food. If I track my food, I get a general picture of how much fiber am I getting in the day? How much sugar intake am I getting? What's my protein content? So, tracking your food is a fantastic way to start with getting a bigger picture of maybe how many grams of sugar you get a day. So, the FDA suggests 50 grams of sugar for the average American, but the American Heart Association suggests no more than 25 grams for women, and I think like 28 grams or 27 grams for men. So they get a little more, but I think it's like 25 grams, which is nothing. That's really not very much sugar out throughout the day. And it's tough to stick to that. So, what's nice about tracking your food with a lot of these fantastic apps out there is that you can hone in on a particular nutrient. And like I said, it doesn't leave room for eating a lot of other items other than that specific focus of that goal of maybe limiting your sugar, getting more dietary fiber. And that doesn't give you much wiggle room otherwise, and you eat pretty healthy that way too. So, sugar, again, that total sugar includes natural and added sugar. So, there's no daily reference value. No recommendation has been made for the total amount of sugar to eat in a day. And so you'll see that percent of the added sugar, but it doesn't account for the total sugar. And so the 7 grams of added sugar and then 8 grams of natural sugar, the total would be that 15 grams of sugar. That's where that's coming from. And then we have sodium. And I would ask you, do you know how much sodium we're supposed to get in a day? It's shocking. It's shocking. It is 1 teaspoon. That's it for the entire day. And you've got to think this is coming from a lot of other sources. So, someone with high blood pressure would only need 1,500 milligrams a day. And the big things you want to do is limit your processed foods like frozen foods, canned goods, and center aisle at the grocery store, where a lot of times sodium can sneak in. So that's where this nutrition label plays a vital part of being able to consider how much sodium is in an item. It's a really quick reference, especially that percent daily value, where you can look at 20% is high and 5% is low. So you can quickly look at the item and say, oh, you know what? This is low in sodium, or this is high in sodium. And so that nutrition label recap, you're going to start with the serving size. That's where you want to start. And then you want to adjust it based on your portion that you might eat, whether it's less or more of that particular item. And then check out the totals for sodium, fat, and sugar. Those are our big key ones there: cholesterol, might be as well, or saturated fats, but sodium, fat, and sugar is definitely where you're going to want to look on whether these items are high in that. And if they are, you may want to compare to another item or consider maybe eating a little bit of that particular item. Don't forget that percent daily value. Quick reference is 5% is low, 20% is high. And read the first ingredient. That is really important. The first ingredient is the one the most that's in there. So, especially in bread, it's really interesting to see when they claim it's whole grain. The first ingredient might be bleached enriched flour, and then it goes into having some corn or some quinoa in there or something like that. But it's whole grain. So just be careful about that first ingredient. And you're looking for something that is the heavier portion of in that food. So it's the whatever's listed first is the most in that food. And just make sure that it's something that's less processed, ideally. And eat mostly foods without labels, such as fresh fruit and vegetables. And that is it. So if you have any questions, be sure to reach out to me. I certainly have some fantastic handouts if you're ever interested. I can guide you through the My Plate if you're interested, but reach out if you've got any questions on this presentation.
All right. Thank you so much, April, for that great presentation. I think I'm going to be looking at the nutrition labels a lot more closely now. Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
So,
I know it's surprising like how much is really on there. You're like, once you start using it, it becomes very easy to reference and quick. And sometimes it's shocking. You're like, I don't even want to see that label.
So if you're looking for an ingredient, on that ingredients list, should it be like in the top 3, top 5?
Yeah, I was trying to think of an example. Bread is certainly one of the ones that I think of the most when I look at ingredients, because I want to know that if I want whole wheat, because whole wheat is obviously going to be usually the healthier option. If I want whole wheat bread, that needs to be the first ingredient that I see on that particular bread that I'm looking for. Whole wheat, maybe I'm looking at pasta, and pasta may have it says that it's enriched or something. Well, what does that mean? It means that the nutrients were added to it, so it might have been processed and then the nutrients were added back. But if I want to get there's whole wheat pasta, there is this chickpea pasta that's fantastic, has some good fiber in there. So look at brown rice. That's another one. You've got white rice or brown rice. White rice has been processed. Everything has been taken out. But brown rice has the endosperm in there, and it is a little bit more packed with the fiber. Of course, now there's a whole argument where, just eat white rice. But it takes your body a little longer to process because there's more component to that particular item because it hasn't been processed. When it's processed, it goes through your body a lot faster. It might spike your blood sugar faster too. So, but crackers are another great example. So there's lots of crackers out there. If you are wanting to look at more nutrient dense crackers, look for ones that are higher in fiber. Maybe they have a protein content in there. But minimally processed crackers, they're all processed, but as minimally as possible. Triscuits, I know, are a great example. If you look at a Triscuit label compared to maybe the delicious the butter crackers that are really good. And if you compare those, you could see that the Triscuits are probably the better choice.
Yeah. I will say I was really surprised about how much sodium we actually need. Yeah. I was way off. I was thinking, like a few teaspoons, maybe a couple tablespoons.
Right, tablespoon. Yeah. No. The size of your the end of your pinky. So you look at your pinky nail, that's like about a teaspoon, and that's all you need in a day.
And then I think about how much I would put in a baked potato. So I'm like, oh no, I need to scale back.
Yeah, and it sneaks in sauces. You wouldn't think it would come in bread or cookies.
Mhm.
It does.
Oh, right.
It's actually
Yeah.
shocking where sodium sneaks in.
Yeah. Well, now I know. Now I know. So thank you again for your presentation, and everybody make sure to check out her website. And of course, stay tuned for the next Lunch and Learn. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.